How's everybody doing out there? I know the answer. That's why you're here. Everything's going to be okay. So the goal of today, good to see you again, sort of. The goal of today is to kind of give you some, what I hope will be some practical guides, tips, do's, and also don'ts over these last 2 weeks, 13 days, 15 hours, 37 seconds, whatever, you know, the whole countdown until the bar, even through the weekend and the night or the day of, some practical guides and tips of what to do. Nothing is etched in stone. You can do a little fewer, you can do a little more. These are just, again, macro, big picture guides. If you're in a course, and like I always do in these things, I talk about those of you that are in a commercial course as opposed to those who are kind of doing your own thing. So we'll talk a little bit about both of my communities out there. And obviously, the common denominator, no matter what you're doing, here again is what you should be doing. You're in a school with a bar prep program. They're telling you what to do. I'm not here to contradict any courses, schedules, syllabi, etc. These are just some things to use to supplement whatever you're being told to do. If you're not being told to do, hopefully it can give you some structure moving forward so you're not doing too much of one thing and not enough of the other. Big picture, even though I'm here to talk about MBE, of course. My big overreaching macro point these last several weeks is make sure that your daily prep, to the best of your ability, is balancing both MBE and your writing portion. Too many people overdo one to the detriment of the other. And so you want the benefit of the average, but in order to get the benefit of the average, you need to be pretty close. If you're killing one and the other one is bombing, you're putting too much pressure on this one. That's why that average thing doesn't usually work. If you're doing okay on both, then one can kind of carry you over. So in terms of your practice question, don't be doing 200 a day and not doing essays for 4 or 5 days. Don't write 10 essays a day and do no MBE. It's got to be a balance. I'll give you some guides and tips of what I think is fair and good and reasonable, but balance is the key. Even if it's a little less on a given day, that's okay. As far as MBE is concerned, most of the courses I know are either finished with the substantive lectures, some courses running a little later chronologically, still may have a couple of substantive lectures to do. Always be finishing your course if you're taking one. Of course, I fully endorse that, absolutely. But in addition to the essay lecture or whatever you're doing in your course, daily mixed MBE set on AdaptiBar in exam mode, okay? Wean off of the practice mode now. Exam mode. I don't want to see whether I'm right or wrong until the end of my practice set. Because we talked at the beginning, you kind of ride that emotional roller coaster. I'm doing well, I feel pretty good. I missed a few, they get in my head. So you need that discipline. Shut up and pick it, clean slate, next question, next question. Don't be thinking about question 13 when you're on question 23. You gotta have that discipline to focus on each question one at a time. So a daily mix set, all 7 subjects in exam mode. I use round numbers. 35-40, 40-45, mixed is fair. I don't say 100 because then you won't have time for your writing. 15-20, you want to see more hypos now. So I use that 40 number, could be 40-45. You're having a good day and get to 50, okay. You need a little more time on some essay stuff, MPT, other non-MBE stuff you're working on. I'm going to do a 5 or 10 fewer. You just play with that number here and there, okay? That'll take you about an hour and a half hour for review. We'll talk about how to do that. I still have plenty of time for my essays and my other writing and non-MBE part of the test. If you feel you need a little extra practice in a given subject, struggling with property, need to do a little more with con law, etc., and you want to do a separate little set of 5 or 7 property, 5 or 7 con law, 5 or 7 evidence, that's fine. Maybe reduce the MBE overall set down to like 30, 35, so I have some time to do the extra single practice set of a subject, if you feel you need it. The mix set is really the goal to practice taking the test. But sometimes we all know you have a bad day, bad couple days with a subject. I think I'm getting a little rusty in that subject. You may want to do a little small extra set. I would not do that every day. You generally don't need to do it every day. What I would be doing every day, no matter what, no excuses, I don't care what the heck you're doing. Every single day, through the Monday before the bar, you should be picking a random MBE topic, sometimes two, and say, today's my tort day, tomorrow's my crim law day. And from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, I'm going to recite law, rules from that topic to keep it all fresh, to keep those buzzwords at the tip of your tongue as opposed to falling behind in the back of your head with the dust. You're making breakfast, do some intentional tort. Making lunch, I can get through negligence. Making dinner, I can do product and strict liability. Sitting on the couch, I could do some defamation. Just make yourself think about these words. Can't remember the names of all the torts or the crimes? Have your outline next to you. You take a look, you shove it in your head, and you move along. Don't read, recite. In the room, there's no cards. You want to wean off of the cards. You forget, of course, you take a look and you shove it in there. Whatever you're not remembering or forgetting at this point, those are the ones you want to say. These are the ones I'm vulnerable to forget. Maybe I need to say these for the extra 3, 4, 5 times. You want to do some tort in the morning and some crim law at night? Play with it. Just be speaking, pushing more of those buzzwords out. I say, no matter what jurisdiction, mostly the UBE for sure, but also I'm here in Florida or any of those other specific state essay. Most of that vocabulary for all these essay rules, you could still be writing on an essay, right? I mean, negligence is negligence. Statute of fraud, statute of fraud. So the more comfortable you are with those buzzwords, the easier and more confident you're going to be when you're writing the essay rule statements for those as well. Don't read, recite. Don't worry about what you're forgetting. It's good news. Better you realize now than on the bar exam. That plus your practice set should be really good maintenance for MBE. It'll build your stamina. And it may not be tomorrow, it may not be Sunday, it may not be next Tuesday, but after day 7, 9, 11, 13, wow, I am really locked in. I am reading these questions much more consistently. I'm in that groove, I'm in that rhythm. Remember, always go back to those fundamentals. What's the number one mistake people make with doing questions this time of year? They do what I call, they chase the stats. John, what's the number one email and call I get this time of year? I was scoring 66%, John. I was at 64. The last 3 days, I was at 52. I'm freaking out, John. I think I'm forgetting everything. Some of that is real. Some of it is a perception. Let's talk about the numbers and the daily set. Generally speaking, you have one really good day a week. 75. How did that happen? Then you get 52. That's the panic attack. I usually recommend throw out the high, throw out the low. What's your average in the last 7 days? That's a better indication of where you're at. Too many people are chasing the daily number. And when you're thinking about how I'm doing, what do? You take your eye off the question. So many people get sloppier the closer we get to the bar. And then they email me, I know all the law, John. My problem's reading comp. But I've been yelling about reading comp every day since bar prep began. It's the most important thing. So A, push yourself for slowing down even more as the anxiety and the stress and you get more tired as you get to the bar. Be more careful on each question. Then the number takes care of itself. Don't worry about what the number is. Worry about question 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Then you're doing great because that's the skill that you want to take into that room on 20, 30, 50, 70, and 90, etc. If you feel you're getting a little glazy, starting to do this, don't remember what you're reading, having to go back and read again. It's mental fatigue. So again, you want that little voice in your head really yelling at you. Maybe I do need to stop every 20 questions and put the pencil down and rub my eyes and rub my neck and kind of get my stuff back together again so I can focus on the reading. Because for those of you that just took your practice simulated exams, how many times you do this? You're doing this. You're doing this. All that garbage. Don't give away questions. So that little voice in your head, I say all July, everything is mental now. You got to hear that voice telling you, am I reading correctly? Am I reading efficiently? Quick fundamentals again. Am I spotting the issue? Do I see what the facts say? Do I know what answer I'm looking for? What is each answer about? I get it down to A and B. What's the difference between A and B? A is negligence, B is negligence per se. A is murder, B is manslaughter. A is character, B is impeachment. Equal protection, due process. I can keep going. You get the point. Don't stare at the answers. Which one's better? Which one do I like? Don't do that. What is each answer about? Connect the dots. My answer must be the most specific to the issue, not the one that's legally the best argument. If I'm getting sloppy with that, it's either because I'm rushing to go too fast because I want the set to be done so I could see how I'm doing, or I'm too nervous about the number overall. Remember, the number is just a snapshot of what you're doing today. Next, at this point, and for the next couple of weeks, eventually you're going to have those days where you get some of those weird contract remedy questions. They're finally going to spit more of the future interest questions at you. There's only so many questions in the program. So the software is eventually going to drum up what I call the bottom of the barrel questions, a couple extra remedies questions, the weird one. So when you get the 52, don't freak out. Ask yourself my favorite question. Why? Did I just get 3 or 4 out of my 30 or 40 that were the weird, stupid ones that only 20% of the country is getting right? I don't care. I'm throwing those in the garbage. I'm not worried. That's what happened. Did I get the 52? Because he's right. I'm reading too fast and I'm worried about my number. And I'm taking my eye off the facts. I'm getting a little sloppy and lazy with my reading. That's on me. Good call, John. I'm going to go have some dinner, recharge the battery, take it easy, get some sleep, and get up tomorrow with a purpose. Excellent. Don't be doing the questions just for the sake of doing. Did my set today? Did my 40? Did my 50? Because then you're getting lazy with the reading. You want to begin to peak with the reading comp as you get closer to the bar. That comes from being more careful, more aware, more alert. I'm focusing on what I'm reading. I'm contrasting the answer choices. If you need this time of year to do fewer questions, you know what? I'm burnt, John. You're right. Mental fatigue. That's a great way to put it. I don't even like doing the questions right now. It's a struggle. It's a chore. Then either take a day off of questions and recharge your battery, do a good law review, and come back the next day and do a small set. Now, I don't want to do that, John. But I think you're right. Maybe I'll do a smaller set tomorrow, 10, 15, so I'm not worried about getting through them. I can really just take my time and focus on my reading. Then rebuild the momentum, then 20, then 25, then 30. You follow what I'm saying? It's not about the number. It's about how you're reading the questions. The numbers will take care of themselves, and every day you can add 5, 6, 7 questions. So by the beginning of the week, you'll be up to 40 or 50. It doesn't matter. There's no magic number. If there was, everybody would be doing it and everybody would be passing the bar exam. So you always want to ask yourself, when I have the bad day, is it just the weird questions that I got today? No problem. I'm fine. Is it, I'm really starting to have one eye on the score to see what my stats are? That's on you. Slow down. Is it just I'm really burning out and pushing too hard, John? I'm beginning to really overanalyze. Take that step back. Don't push more. Take that step back. One day or a small set for 2 days is not going to make a difference. It can only help you if it rewires your brain and gets you back on track. 3, again, back to the numbers. If you've done 1,000 questions at this point, 800 questions, whatever the number is, at some point when you get several hundred, close to 1,000, the overall number doesn't change much. Okay, it's just statistics. So if once you've piled on a certain number of questions, even if you scored 45 out of 50 correct and you were 95% correct, the overall number doesn't really move much. That frustrates a lot of people. I get emails, hey, John, I'm at 62.3. I just can't get to 64. What should I do? No matter how many questions I do, you're not going to. That's why you want to use the link on AdaptiBar. They have that little calendar, performance. How am I doing every day this week? How am I doing over the last 7 days? How am I doing since July 1st? You want to feel like as of this month, towards the bar, that's a better indication and a better number. You want to feel like that number is peaking, is getting into the mid 60s on a fairly consistent basis. That's the number that matters. So if you use the first, 500, 700, 1,000 questions from May into July to kind of work out the rust and make all the stupid mistakes that you were making at the beginning, good. But just because your number won't rise, you get my point, it doesn't mean you're going to fail or God forbid you're not doing well. Be much more aware of what you're doing day to day to day in July than what you're doing overall since the beginning. But when you're reading those questions every day, make sure that you're focusing more, on the individual question, not how fast I'm going. Okay? The other thing, time, speed. Time and speed don't matter now. Reading matters because the more you're worried about the time, the faster you go, the more stupid mistakes you make on your questions. I said this at the beginning a couple of 2 months ago. I'll say it again. Even if you get the question 95 in the morning or 195 in the afternoon, and they say 1 minute to go, it won't happen for the large majority of people. But if it did, doesn't matter. Click the circle, bubble in a circle for B or C for the last 4 or 5. The issue is, how did you do on the first 95? If you fly through the test because you want to finish, and the adrenaline, as you know from those practice tests, the adrenaline's going to kick in anyway. So you're going to be reading faster than you normally would at home. That's why you want to practice really slowing down now. So even if you have a little bit of that, the adrenaline rush, you're training the muscle memory. You're wired to just be more careful on the day of the test. The issue is for most jurisdictions, again, for all the UBE jurisdictions, you don't have to pass the MBE. Even in states like Florida, where there's a number you're trying to get to, even if you missed it by 1 or 2, you can still get over the hump and pass the whole bar exam if you do okay on the state portion. So ultimately, you're just trying to get as many raw number of questions correct as you can. That's it. The Scantron only picks up the right questions. So don't rush with that whole, oh my God, I got to finish. Oh my God, let me do more questions. Because then you're making too many of these reading mistakes on the first 70, 80, and 90, and now you're in trouble. If you just bubbled in B or C for the last 4 or 5, statistically, you're going to get one of them right anyway. So you're only really talking about a couple of questions at the end, but don't worry about those at the expense of the first 95. Quality over quantity. Be in control of yourself. They say about great basketball players, the game doesn't speed them up. They always go at their own pace because a lot of players, when they get out there, especially in big games, the adrenaline's rushing, they're all hyped up. You know what I'm saying? They kind of run around like a chicken without a head. They're just running around with no purpose. Same in football. Of course, my Jets know about that, but you know what I'm talking about. Be more calm. You could be nervous inside, but when you're reading the questions, and again, just so we're no misunderstanding, I don't say slow down to take 4 minutes a question. I say slow down in the facts and the question, so when you go into the answer choices, you know what you're looking for, and there's nothing to reread the hypo about, because when you see it and you know that's the correct answer, what does John say? Shut up and pick it. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to overthink. You already know that that's the answer. And that's the confidence and aggressiveness you want to have here to quote, shut up and pick it. Trust what you read. You have no choice because you've already done enough questions that you screwed up where you did second guess and you did reread and you made up arguments in your head and you picked answers which look good but has nothing to do with the question. That's why you got them all wrong. But many times when you just say, I'm not sure, but that's really where they're going, I'm just going to pick it. You're right. That's not a fluke. That's what I'm preaching every day. The more you do that times 30, 40, or 50, 7 days a week for the next almost 3 weeks, that's what's wired in. And that's why a lot of people I see at the bar say, I'm just on autopilot, John. I'm just processing these questions. It's just another 200 on today, like I've been doing on AdaptiBar for the last month. You're locked in. Okay? You're in the groove, so to speak. What about the practice test, John? There's the 100 practice question tests on AdaptiBar. To me, the most important is your daily set. A lot of students don't do MBE during the week because they're too busy with essay. Then they do 100 on Saturday. They take one of those tests. I'm not against them. I'm just saying if you go 6 days with no questions, the 100 question test sometimes doesn't go too well because you get rusty. And then you're too focusing on how am I doing again, and you read the last 25 too fast, and the number is not good. So that's why to me the priority is the daily set. Even if you're modulating the number high and low, depending on what else you want to do, that's perfectly fine, but maintain that muscle memory of the daily practice. If you're going to do those 100 question practice tests, I recommend doing them this weekend on a Saturday or Sunday, the next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, during the week if you have the time to do it. I like the Saturday or Sunday this way. You got all your stuff in during the week. For those of you that work, you have a little more time, etc. What I say is don't do the 3 back to back to back because you'll burn out. And if you're doing that, then again, you're not going to be able to balance your essay prep and your writing. Don't do them the week before the exam. Okay? Too much, you'll burn out and you freak out on the number. The daily set is the best way to go. So if you're going to do any of those, I do them kind of front load them this weekend, early next week, etc., before that last week before the bar. And again, even on those practice tests, it's not an indication, okay, I'm locked in or oh my God, I'm in trouble. What do you do on your day-to-day practice and on any of those practice tests? The post-it next to your laptop should be why. Why did I get the question wrong? Which questions am I missing these days because of the rules that are slipping out? And which questions am I missing because of the reading comp? The number is only a reflection of the number you missed. Why did you miss them is the critical question that most people don't ask. They just do more. They either get 75%, okay, I'm good with MBE, I'll worry about essay, and they don't come back for MBE for 4 or 5 days. Or the number's a little lower and they freak out, so what do? They do another 50 question set. The number's not going to get better. Some people get lucky and they make educated guesses and they get a 65 and they fool themselves into the idea, I'm okay. But it's not real because tomorrow they go back to the 50s. Why? Because they didn't fix the reasons why they missed the questions. Which ones were the rules? Get that back in your head and constant repetition of law. The reading comp mistakes. When you get a question wrong and you read that explanation and say, no, I knew that rule. Look back at the answer choices. Look at what I like to call the red and the green, the right answer and the wrong answer. What is each answer about? Did I even know the issue? Wait a minute, I picked admissible. Wait a minute, Jesus, this was character. I picked an answer about credibility. That's an impeachment question. What the hell was I thinking? I picked constitutional because I thought it was constitutional, but I picked commerce clause. This was clearly equal protection. It was about those group of people. I missed the issue. You fell into reading too fast to see the answer that looked better, maybe legally correct. Yes, because Congress has plenary authority under the Commerce Clause. John wins if there was insufficient consideration. You know these answers. They look and sound great because legally they're true, but they have nothing to do with the issue. That is the number one reading mistake people have. Or they get it down to 2 with the conclusion. But remember what I said last time. The 2 that come to the same conclusion will never be about the same issue. They're always opposite, something different. So you want to be contrasting the difference between yes and yes, no and no, guilty, guilty. Don't just stare and do more. And even though the explanations are written very well, if the first 2 sentences of those explanations, you'll know if you missed it because you forgot the rule or not. If you knew the rule, don't worry about the explanation anymore. You go back to the facts and see why did you miss? What word did you miss? What did you overthink? Did you read too fast, etc.? Because the rest of the explanation is just going to give you more minutia of law or a bigger explanation. You don't need that. Stop with the Excel spreadsheets and the wrong answer journals and all these documents half the country makes. It's July. The black letter simple definition is what you need. Put it back in. You have it, then you don't need minutia of law. You need to go back up in the facts and see what you missed. Focus on the reading comp. Practice daily set every day. For my people who are working, so do fewer. It's the quality of the questions you're doing, not how many. Still finishing your course. Have the videos to watch. Do some fewer, but do some. But everyone goes to the kitchen 15 times. You could be driving or taking the bus or the train back and forth to work. That's a great time to be closing your eyes and reciting those rules. Because also, what's the key on MBE? When you see those answer choices, hundreds and hundreds of those answer choices have those nice juicy buzzwords right there in those answers. Civ Pro, evidence, con law, rational, legitimate, compelling. They're giving you the words in there. Reckless, negligent, intend. They're giving you those buzzwords. When you get rusty and forget which buzzword goes with which tort, crime, amendment, or rule, that's why you're missing the question. Be more efficient with your time. Don't read, make sure you're reciting. Practice set 7 days a week. You're mentally done, you need a day, take it. Don't keep up with the Joneses, okay? There's no finite number. My friend did, my friend said, leave it alone. Everybody's in a different individual situation. You know what you need to do. Match that with that recitation of rules. That's throughout the day. And that way you have time to balance your essay prep or whatever else you need to do. So when you go to bed every night, you can literally look at the bedroom ceiling, and when you can't fall asleep, you can say, I'm okay. I mean, I've done everything I can. I'm keeping the law fresh. I'm really, really focusing on how I'm reading the questions. Like he says, I'm not worrying about how fast I'm going. I want to get more correct, so I'm doing that. And I have time to also focus on the other parts of the test. What else can I do? I'm basically taking the bar exam every day. It may not, like I said earlier, feel like I got it. But after day 3, 5, 7, 9, you know what's going to happen? Mark my words, a week from now, if you do what I'm saying, you're going to say, I'm feeling better. Yeah, I'm more in a groove. I'm more in a rhythm. And about 2 weeks from now, a week before the bar, many of you will be able to say, you know what? I just wish I could take this damn thing already. I'm so locked in. I'm ready to go. That's how you know you're ready. Okay? You always want more time for more, but in your gut, it'll be like, enough is enough. I got to do this. The weekend before, I say, do your practice sets through Sunday. Okay? If you're taking both days of an exam, to me, Monday should be all about your prep for your essays and whatever you're doing on day one. Night before the exam, morning of the MBE. What do I recommend? Either if you're taking both days, if you know, you know, if you don't, you'll see, you're going to be mentally, physically, and emotionally just drained. So to me, the best thing is get a decent, good dinner and lay down in bed and rest because you need that concentration and stamina for day two. Those of you, again, took the 2-day practice test. You see, I always say people underestimate how difficult it is to sit in that chair for 12 hours. So take care of yourself. I'm not a fan of reading outlines the night before the MBE or the morning of. You know the law. Okay? What I am a fan of is between now and then, if you haven't already, the stupidest, silliest reading mistakes that you'll make over the next couple of weeks. Flag those. Okay? The night before, the morning of in the hotel, just sit in bed and reread some of those reading mistakes that you made. Can't believe I did this. This was clearly manslaughter. What was I thinking? John would have killed me. This is clearly intentional infliction. I picked an answer about negligent infliction. I remember when I did this, I wasn't paying attention, right? He didn't want to take the watch. He just wanted to borrow the watch. I didn't see that. If the last message in your brain is focus more on the reading, on the words, the difference between the answer choices. Why am I picking A versus B? That's going to be the message on the exam. When your proctor says begin, you close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and you say, this is a reading test. I know enough law. This is about how I read. Do I read correctly? So if your last message the night before or the morning of is to walk through, to read some questions you've already missed and see how silly and ridiculous those were, and how you're going to be more determined and focused to be more careful with the reading and then just shut up and pick it. Aggressive and confident. Be aggressive. Know, trust what you're reading. That's where those extra points are going to come from. That's the last message you want to put in your head, not about what rule you may or may not remember. Yes, some people, again, just trying to be comprehensive, some people have that need, that feeling like, I just need to look over property. I just need, okay, there's nothing wrong with it. You just don't want to be reading till 11:30 at night because you're only going to get nervous about what you don't remember. So whatever refresher you feel you need to do to calm down and give you that confidence, of course, I'm fully behind you, but I think it's just equally, if not more important, again, to focus more again on that reading. Some people will tell me, both in their practice tests for their course or just day to day when they do their practice questions, they always quote, get off to a tough start. Takes them 2 or 3 or 4 questions to warm up. They read a little too fast when they start because they're too jacked up. Then they get into a good routine. That's another reason why I believe in reading 4, 5, 6 of these questions to yourself before you actually go into the convention center. It's like a good warm up, if you will. You follow? Like mentally, because on Tuesday, it's essay prep or MPT or multiple choice, whatever you're doing for your state or their portion, that's the focus. So it takes a little bit of a transition. All of a sudden, I'm doing MBE on Wednesday morning. So some people feel like they need kind of that transition, and you don't want to transition by blowing 3 or 4 or 5 of the first questions. So that also is just a good way of kind of wrapping your brain around, yeah, MBE, yeah, it's all reading comp, got it, okay, slow down, blah, blah, all those things I've been yelling about. So just use some of those 5, 6, or 7 to walk through so it gives you more of that mindset. So when they say begin, you've kind of already virtually done 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. Got it? No new questions the night before the morning of, okay? Only bad things can happen from that, in my opinion. You've done enough and you trust that. So Again, as I always say, at the risk of sounding like a used car salesman, I don't want to do that, but I talk fast, but I can only talk so fast. If you feel that you got into or fell back into bad habits, I'm just doing tons of questions, John. I can't get myself out of it. I'm just getting it down to two. I don't know what to do. Remember, there is that video on AdaptiBar called Mastering the MBE. That's me going over that detailed approach as to how to read the questions. If you watch it before, maybe I need to watch it again and just refresh. Because these couple of weeks are not about making up if I'm behind. Let me do 100 a day. Let me do 75 a day and 200 on Saturday. It's not about the quantity as much as it is, am I reading the questions correctly? So if you feel that I fell out of scope, I'm having 3, 4 bad days, I'm developing some bad habits, that's just a refresher to kick you back. Because what do a lot of people do in that state when they have a couple bad days? They kind of panic and then run to the outline. But they may know a lot more law than they even think they do. But the problem, again, is more of the reading. So that's where, again, you just want to be honest with yourself. Doing them for the sake of doing them is not right. It's, am I improving and reading? Where should you be? Where should I be? This is the ultimate question. Remember, there's I'm not trying to skirt the question. But as some of you no doubt know, every jurisdiction is different, right? Scale, curve, blah, blah, how everybody else is doing. There's no way to know this, you get this number in 50 different states and you're going to be okay. Overall, you certainly don't need 70, okay? Low to mid 60s, raw questions correct. Generally, you're in a good spot because either you're above where you need to be or you're right there and your writing can pull you over the top. So don't be pushing. I'm bringing this up now because too many people, again, stay off Reddit, okay? Don't listen to them because too many of these blogs, oh, you need 80, you need 75, you need 72. Keep doing it, you'll hit 80. Nonsense, okay? There's a ceiling as to how many of these you can get right on a day-to-day basis because they're not letting you get 90% of the tort questions right, no matter how much you actually know. The consistency across the board, that is the key. Get out of the 50s to be in the 60s, and then that'll fluctuate a little bit. One day you'll be at 70, one day you may be at 59, but in the mid 60, you're locked in and you're in a good position. I said a couple of weeks ago, and that's why I'm leading up to saying again, can you still get 5, 6, 8, 9 more questions right on the bar and get the highest score you've ever gotten before? Yes, comma, if you do what I'm saying, which is slow down, reduce the silly, stupid mistakes. And then when you see the 25, 30 questions on your bar exam, which is coming, that nobody in the country's seen before, doesn't look like anything you've ever done. You don't know if it's an experimental question or not. It looks weird. 1, don't skip. 2, read it and dumb it down and say, I have no idea what the law is here. Never saw it before. Don't know what they're talking about. But you know what? I'm going to listen to John. Basically, that whole hypo is about line 4. I don't even know what line 4 means, but that's the crux of the whole thing. I look at these answers. I know what A, B, and C are. It's not about that. I have no idea what D means. But D is the only answer that could match the facts. D is the only answer that kind of sort of talks about the facts. But I know that A, B, and C are wrong. I just don't know what it's about. I don't really understand D. You know what I'm going to say, right? Shut up and pick D. If you can just take the 25 or 30 that you're not going to know, no matter what you do, nobody can, and say, I'm not going to skip. I'm not going to let them lose my confidence. I'm not going to make myself overthink. I'm just going to say, I know that these questions are coming. I can't get all 200 right perfectly. Nobody can. But if I could manage those 25 or 30 and just say, yeah, I have no idea why, but I'm going with C. I'm trusting my gut because I think that's where they're going. Shut up and pick it. You won't get all of them, but you'll get 4 or 5 in the morning and 3, 4 in the afternoon, and all of a sudden you got a 160. How did I do that, John? I never broke this certain percentage because you peaked on exam day. And that's why I scream every day about being confident and aggressive. And although my Jets don't know this, the best defense is a good offense. Confident and aggressive. The most important day, you want to have that in you. You got to walk in that convention center with that swag, with that battery on your shoulder. I joke to my students that I teach, when you when you're at graduation, you go for that family graduation, everyone's patting you on the back. I'm going to crush the bar, hee hee. You walk around with all that cocky, arrogant confidence, and now you're a bumbling 1L all over again. You got to spend the next 3 weeks kind of getting that edge back, even if you're faking it. Those buildings, they smell weakness, okay? They smell insecurity. That's their genius to me. They know how to insert these weird questions every 5, 10, or 20, or put 2 or 3 of them back to back to back just to get in your head. There's not enough of the weird ones, the difficult ones, to make you fail. It'll only make you fail, God forbid, if you let them get in your head and now you're getting too many wrong on the ones that you're getting right all the time. It is a mind game. So I'm not letting them in my head because I got my little voice talking to me all the time. That's what you want to focus on. It's corny, but it really does matter and it really does work. Because once you start going, well, to me, John, I thought, John, that answer does look good, John. I don't like that answer. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'll say again. Many, many people that I see or talk to at or after the bar exam have said to me in the last year or two, John, I was prepared. I knew what I was doing. I knew where a lot of those questions were going. But in one of those sections, the morning or the afternoon, there were a bunch of answer choices. Man, the wording was not what I was looking for. I never saw the language in some of those answers. I really had to say, wait a minute, what is each answer about? Made me stop for a second. I just had to be a little more careful. So again, I say, the other good news and bad news about getting to July is, God willing, you've done a lot of questions, you're going to do a lot more. Unfortunately, many of the hypos begin to look the same. I've seen that one. I know how to do that one. That's another reason I forgot to mention why sometimes your score goes down for a day, because your brain is working faster than you can process it. Many of these questions begin to look the same, but it's not the same question. They change the question ever so slightly. They change the facts ever so slightly. So all of a sudden I get emails all day. Hey, John, can you take a look at these 2 questions? On Monday I picked A, but on Tuesday it's the same question. I picked C. What's the difference? Then I look at the question. It's the same rule. It looked like the same hypo, but you see down there, it's not the same question. That's what happens when you kind of get a little glazy and daisy, mental fatigue, or you're just getting a little sloppy to finish the set because you want to see the score. Know and anticipate that you're going to see 25 or 30 you've never seen on the bar, but you're going to see a bunch of hypos on the MBE exam that you've seen before in some form or fashion. I'm not talking about word for word, though that could happen too. But I know that's a risk. I know that negligence per se. I've seen that hypo before with the guy. Yeah, I've seen that. Be careful, which again brings me back to my final and consistent point of make it a reading test. They can't change the law on you. The hypos can look familiar. You just want to make sure it's the one you're thinking about. You get to the answer choices, don't expect them to give you the same language in every single question. Some will. You'll know what the answer is before you finish the hypo and the answer's sitting right there. Shut up and pick it. Sometimes you know where it's going. I've seen this. I know the law. I know what I'm looking for. You look at the bottom. Wait a minute. Where the hell were those answer choices? That's a little weird. He reminded me about this. Okay. So the language is a little funky, but I can pick the most specific to the facts. It's not the way it looks on my flashcard, but I know what I'm looking for. And I know why. I know why the other answer is wrong. The other answer is wrong because it's talking about false imprisonment. It's talking about best evidence rule. It's talking about impeachment. There's always a difference between the two. This is the key. This is worth 10 or 20 points. That's got to be it, though I don't like it because that one's talking about something else. Shut up and pick A. If you can do that a little better, a couple of times in the morning, a couple of times, and don't get intimidated when the language in the answer doesn't look good, looks different. Trust and stick to the fundamental, which is, what's the issue? What did the fact pattern say? What is each answer about? Pick the most specific answer, connect the dots, shut up and pick it. The more confident and aggressive you are with your daily practice set, mixed exam mode, little more, little less, depending on how much extra work you need in your other portion. I'm going to be a walking Wikipedia of law. I'm going to get laryngitis spitting out these rules. I'm going to be so sick of it, the buzzwords are falling off my tongue. Fantastic. The proctor says begin, breathe. Don't be the first one ripping open the book to get to question number 1. Let everybody run ahead. They don't know where the hell they're going. They're going to bang their head against the wall. You slow down. Read carefully. You feel you need to take those couple of mental breaks, take them. You need to get up at question 50 or 150, go to the restroom, splash some cold water so you can walk around and be fresh for the second half. Even if it takes you 7 minutes because the proctor has to take you, the person has to take you, you do it. Because otherwise, you're just doing this on question 74 and you're going to give the questions away. Be an active reader. Hear the little voice in your head walking you through more questions. Have a purpose and always know why you're picking what you're picking. When you leave the room, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, every answer I bubbled in, whether I knew it or maybe not, was the most specific answer to what the fact pattern said, you're going to pass. I don't know what the number is going to be, but you'll have enough questions to pass. Confident, aggressive, assertive, trust what you're reading. Don't look for the tricks. You're only doing it to yourself. Don't chase the stats every day. The number will take care of itself if you read correctly. You have a bad day. Why? Be honest with yourself. Don't run to the outlines. Don't do 100 more. Fix each kind of mistake. That's what improves over time. Don't look for miracles tomorrow. It's a slow grind for the next couple of weeks, but all your vision in your head is, I'm just trying to peak on exam day. Thanks for hanging in there. It does suck. I'm not trying to minimize anything, but it's going to be worth it. It's one bad summer for a lifetime of freedom. So keep your eye on the ball at the end of the rainbow down there, okay? You have a tough day, take care of yourself. Get some extra rest. You need to finish a little early, get some sleep, keep eating well, all those good things. Because again, you got to get to your exam and be physically, emotionally, and psychologically have the stamina and the concentration to perform at your best. So don't be a martyr and a hero. I always like to joke when I go to Tampa, I see someone check into the hotel, they have more books than clothes, they're pretty much in trouble, okay? So take care of yourself now. The extra hour of sleep makes a big deal. A little movie with a significant other, a good meal, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever you need to do, take care of yourself so when you are practicing and then take the bar exam, you're at your peak on all levels. I appreciate the loyalty and hanging in there. We'll be with you virtually, spiritually, etc. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And we look forward to hearing from all good news here at AdaptiBar from you when your respective results come out. Bless you. Keep the faith, stay confident, and shut up and pick it.